It's early morning, Christmas Eve, 2020. I'm pregnant with my first and only child, waiting alone in a dark, gloomy room for my amniocentesis results. For those of you who don't know, an amniocentesis is a procedure done in order to retrieve amniotic fluid from your uterus, which is then tested for various reasons. Anyways, my doctor enters the room with a stern, gentle look on his face. "Your baby has a chromosome defect and it's severe," he said in a soft voice. I remember asking if that meant if my son would walk or if my son would talk. And what he said to me will forever be etched in my memory. "Your baby has trisomy 18, and that means he's going to die. He's incompatible with life." Naturally, after the diagnosis of my son, all I did was research things about trisomy 21, the treatment, the causes, if my son was going to live or if he was going to die. In a February 16, 2021 article published on medicineplus.gov, researchers found trisomy 18 occurs every 1 in 5,000 live-born infants. It's more commonly known as Edwards syndrome, and it can happen to anyone. Trisomy 18 is a fatal chromosome defect. Today, I'd like to take the time to share information on this devastating syndrome. I'll begin by going over the 3 different types and what makes trisomy 18 a chromosome defect. Then I'll go over diagnostic and markers for this syndrome. And then I'll finish up by going over the treatment and prognosis of somebody living with trisomy 18. Now let's get into what makes trisomy 18 a chromosome defect. Trisomy 18 is a chromosome defect that can be differentiated into 3 different types. According to an article last revised on July 7th, 2015, published by the Genetic and Rare Disease Information Center on their website, rarediseases.gov, trisomy 18 occurs due to errors in formation of egg and sperm. It happens before conception when the egg and sperm are formed. The article goes on to state, if an egg or sperm gains an extra copy of chromosome 18 during cell division and contributes to pregnancy, the embryo will have an extra 18th chromosome, or trisomy, in each cell of the body. To put it in perspective, Down syndrome is also known as trisomy 21. They have a 3rd extra 21st chromosome. There are 3 different types of trisomy 18. Full trisomy 18 occurs when every cell in the body is affected with that 3rd 18th chromosome. Partial trisomy 18 occurs when only partially of the cells are affected by the 18th chromosome. And lastly, there's mosaic trisomy. This is the rarest form of trisomy, and it occurs when the 3rd extra 18th chromosome is attached to a different chromosome. Next, I'd like to share some markers for trisomy 18. Markers for trisomy 18 are often found in utero before birth using various diagnostic techniques. Several different markers can be seen using high-def ultrasound. Physical markers include microcephaly, clenched hands, polydactyly, which is an extra finger, undefined scrotal sac in males, and a cleft lip. Trisomy 18 is also characterized by intellectual disability, malformation of the brain or spinal cord, congenital heart defects, renal defects, and malformation of the abdominal wall. Brain malfunctions include anencephaly, which is when parts of the brains or skull is missing, and holoprosencephaly, which is when the brain does not divide into the 4 different hemispheres. Renal defects include horseshoe kidney and polycystic kidneys. Horseshoe kidney occurs when the right and left kidney are fused together as one, and polycystic kidneys are characterized by when either one or both kidneys have several cysts. Common heart defects in somebody with trisomy 18 include ventricular septal defect. A previously cited article from Genetic and Rare Diseases Information Center defines VSD as an abnormal opening in the fibrous partition or septum that separates the lower chambers of the heart. There are several other heart defects that are associated with trisomy 18, but ventricular septal defect is the most common. Trisomy 18 can only be diagnosed using specific tests. A case study titled Sonographic Findings in Partial Type of Trisomy 18, published on December 13, 2013 in the International Journal of Fertility and Sterility, states The only definitive methods to make a diagnosis of trisomy 18 are through ultrasound imaging, particularly through the first and second trimesters, triple tests, and invasive testing with amniocentesis or chorionic villus sampling. I described to you what an amniocentesis was already, but chorionic villus sampling is just another different type of blood test. Moving on from the markers of trisomy 18, I want to focus on the prognosis of somebody diagnosed with this syndrome. There is no cure for trisomy 18, and to be quite blunt, the prognosis is poor. According to a previously cited study, Sonographic Findings, trisomy 18 is classified as lethal. The study states it is a fatal disease with very poor prognosis. 90% of affected newborns die during the first year of life, and the remaining 10% suffer from severe mental retardation. Although there is no cure, there are treatment options for symptoms that occur with trisomy 18. An article in the Journal of Perinatology published on July 6, 2018, written by Elena K. Pyle, Alan R. Fleischman, George Hardart, and Mark R. Mercurio, states, evidence from recent years shows that some children with trisomy 13 or trisomy 18 are able to live years at home after medical and or surgical intervention, including cardiac surgery, respiratory support, gastrostomy tubes, etc. Unfortunately, in my experience, as well as countless others, there were no treatment options available. Many times, pregnancies do not make it past the third trimester or result in stillbirth. Given these points, we can conclude that Edwards syndrome can be a devastating diagnosis. Trisomy 18 is a fatal chromosome defect. I've shared with you the 3 different types of trisomy 18 and how it is considered a chromosome defect. I've highlighted markers and identified diagnostic techniques. And finally, I revealed there is no cure for trisomy 18. This chromosome defect has affected me in a very traumatic way, and I'm grateful today to be able to educate you all on this sensitive subject.
Very good.